The Upcycle, Beyond Sustainability, Designing for Abundance, by McDonough and Michael Braungart. Narrated by Sklar. Copyright 2013 by McDonough and Michael Braungart. This unabridged audiobook is produced by arrangement with North Point Press, a division of Farrar, Straus & Giroux, LLC, all rights reserved, and was produced in the year 2013 by Tantor Media Incorporated, which holds the copyright thereto. Glance at the sun, see the moon and the stars, gaze at the beauty of Earth's greenings. Now think. Hildegard of Bingen. If I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it. Albert Einstein. We have this remarkable experience in this field of fundamental physics that beauty is a very successful criterion for choosing the right theory. Why on earth could that be so? Murray Gell-Mann. The goal of the upcycle is a delightfully diverse, safe, healthy, and just world, with clean air, water, soil, and power, economically, equitably, ecologically, and elegantly enjoyed. Forward. I first met Bill McDonough in the early 1990s, when he brought some remarkable design ideas to greening the White House, an initiative I launched to dramatically reduce the White House's energy consumption and make it a model of efficiency. Bill, an American architect, had just teamed up with the German chemist Dr. Michael Braungart to write the Hanover Principles, which were already becoming an international touchstone in green circles. This set of ideas about how to design safe cities, homes, and workplaces, and how to endlessly reuse the Earth's resources more efficiently and more effectively, struck me as something bigger than an academic exercise. These ideas made sense, and they were doable. Bill and Michael proposed that a better designed world would be good for business, good for people's health, and good for the environment. Their first book, Cradle-to-Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things, introduced these ideas to the broader public and gave momentum to the sustainability movement, urging us to eliminate the concept of waste and arguing that no resource ought to be considered dispensable. I've watched as many of the concepts presented in Cradle-to-Cradle have taken root at the U.S. Postal Service and NASA, at small businesses and corporations as large as Walmart and Procter & Gamble, and in countries all over the world. I've seen how these simple ideas, when put into practice, can improve productivity and make people happier and healthier. In 2008, I visited Make It Right, the program Brad Pitt founded with Bill's consultation to help Hurricane Katrina victims return home to New Orleans' devastated lower Ninth Ward. The program's designers and builders were applying cradle-to-cradle principles and processes throughout the construction of the new houses. A few years later, I heard from a woman who had spent 3 years in emergency housing in Texas, but had finally returned to New Orleans thanks to Make It Right. She had a daughter who had always wanted to take dance lessons. After she'd moved into her new, healthier, low-cost home, not only did lower utility bills enable her to afford some lessons, but her daughter's once severe asthma disappeared because of the cleaner interior materials. She could breathe again and dance. That is the essence of Bill and Michael's work, the genuine desire to help others, coupled with intellectual curiosity and a deep commitment to constant improvement. They work to transform good enough into the very best. They focus on making the right things the right way. After a long career in elected office and more than a decade traveling the globe for the Clinton Foundation, I've learned that we get the best outcomes when we make decisions that are rooted in evidence and experience, when we put aside ideology and focus on what works. The ideas that Bill and Michael put forward in this book come from an honest sensibility that transcends the daily finger-pointing of left, right, or even reverse. They just point forward. The Upcycle is a book about creativity, about thinking big even if we have to act small, and about approaching problems with a bias for action. It encourages us to find solutions through close observation, innovation, and the study of real local conditions and needs. This is the approach that has made Bill and Michael's work so effective over the years, whether it's working to design a super-efficient building with NASA, partnering with some of the world's biggest companies to devise renewable products and energy systems that are good for the bottom line, or helping victims of Hurricane Katrina get a new start in better, more healthful houses. The optimist says the glass is half full, and the pessimist says it's half empty. Bill and Michael say it's always totally full of water and air, and they are constantly working to share that full glass with more people, to make it even bigger, and to celebrate the abundance of the things that enable us to thrive. In this book, Bill McDonough and Michael Braungart invite you to think about the future we share, to imagine what could be and how to make it so. We are all in this together, and we'll need a global commitment to sustainability if we want our children to inherit a world of shared opportunity, shared responsibility, and shared prosperity. Let's get to work. President Bill Clinton. Introduction. Imagine you are sitting in the top-floor boardroom of a major United States consumer products company, and you are meeting one-on-one with the company's executive in charge of sustainability. You have been to this facility many, many times before. Over 7 years, you have met with executives in charge of finance, supply chains, manufacturing, product design, research and development, and marketing. Hundreds of meetings to listen, to learn, and to explore your new concepts for sustainable growth and beneficial innovation. Together, you and the executive have shared data. Lots of data. You know big-picture business issues facing this company, and detailed chemistries of the products. You even know how many light bulbs are used to illuminate the enterprise worldwide, how much energy that consumes, how many light bulbs contain mercury, and how many people it takes to change a light bulb, and what that costs. This is the nature of the work. To use a detailed, defined inventory as a platform for invention, innovation. To ask and answer, what's next? Outside the giant plate glass windows, tall granite-clad skyscrapers stand proudly in the sunshine. The Brazilian mahogany table is polished to a shine, and the high-backed leather chairs remind you of the important executive decisions made in this room, which can affect the lives of millions of people, for better or for worse. One might say you are here chasing the butterfly effect. Given the scale of this company, one small decision has the power to make a real difference for the economy, for people, and for the planet. That is one reason you are here, scale. But you are also here for another reason, velocity. Many of the largest corporate enterprises in the world have come to realize the downside of the butterfly effect, the repercussions of modern business that are obviously damaging and too often unaccounted for, famously called externalities, such as carbon in the atmosphere, toxic materials, poisoned rivers, lost rainforests, and so on, with no end of this decline in sight. Many business people realize this is not good business. They like to know what they are doing and to be able to account for it, but they feel like they are driving a car without a gas gauge, or even, shall we say, a battery charge indicator. It makes them nervous. They also are like Olympic athletes who want to be on a safe, level playing field and who do not want to be left behind. They want to lead. You might just ask this executive friend, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could commit not just to reducing your carbon emissions, but to being 100% renewably powered? Couldn't we find a way to make such a statement? The executive pushes the question aside. We can't do that, he says. No matter how much we would like to declare ourselves that way. Look, we could only get a small percentage of our power for our factories from solar on our roofs. We and everyone else have been saying we'll cut our carbon emissions 20% by 2020. Isn't that enough? Because of the nature of business, we have to be conservative and risk-averse. We can only describe actual performance goals that are realistic. How in the world can we say we are going to seek renewable energy for our entire global enterprise? Consumers don't care, and environmentalists won't trust us. Or if we launch the initiative piecemeal, which is the only way we could, the public awareness of the issue will become a point of concern for all the other products made by the company. For example, if we say these plants are renewably powered, it will raise the question of, why not the other ones? And it's a big, long job getting there. Our shareholders will think we've lost sight of our revenue and profit goals. What if you just state your intention, you suggest? Say, we will be renewably powered as soon as it is cost-effective, and we will constantly seek it out. Any shareholder can understand that plan. It's true, and declaring your intention does the heavy lifting of getting people in the company to get moving in this direction. You've charted the goal. You'll track your progress and report it. You'll unleash the creativity and genius of your people in a clear, clean direction. You've made them want to search for the renewable power solution every time they go looking to supply a kilowatt hour. It lets other industries know that if they can manufacture the solar panels or wind turbines or biogas collectors at a competitive price point, they will have a customer in you. And you, their customer, are likely to lead to other major customers. Before you know it, the renewable power industries are growing technologies and jobs in a business-like way all across the United States, around the world. Your intention itself is powerful. Okay, I get it, the executive says. I'll put this in terms the business will understand and take this to the CEO. This story actually happened. We didn't have to look far to see how this was just one executive in this mammoth company against the endless horizon of people in offices outside the plate glass windows. This was one person, but this person could take a message to the leadership that would launch innovation as inspired as sending a person to the moon. In a few short months, the company announced it would pursue the goal of being renewably powered. All kinds of marvelous innovation busted loose within days. Factory managers started calling, saying, "Can I go first? What can I do to get on board?" Velocity. We tell this story without names for two reasons. The first is that this is not a unique story, and the point of telling it is to focus on and celebrate the power of intentionality. We know that everyone, consumers, manufacturers, government leaders, is interested in a cleaner, healthier world. Many companies with whom we work are delighted to embark on creating a renewable energy base. They would also love to make their products with only fully defined, healthful materials. But society has factionalized to become so mutually suspicious that often consumers and customers don't think companies want the same positive, healthful future they want. And companies think critics will pounce on them if they even lift their heads to break out of the norm, to say, "We want to try. We are trying. We have embarked on the work of being renewable or pursuing only clean production or fully healthful products, but we have more work to do." We hope this book, if nothing else, will inspire you to start and will cheer you on. We believe in constant improvement. Sometimes you can't do it. It doesn't work. Fine, try another way. Do it again and again. Restate your intention. Watch what happens. Secondly, we tell this story without names because we want you to see yourself as both of these individuals in the conference room. All it took was one advocate and one executive to craft a strategy and to move it toward the head of the company, and an entire international corporation was changed. That person could be you in your job, your daily life. When we say start, we also want you to start thinking of yourself as a potential leader, as a person who changed his or her company, home, country, for a better, more beneficial future. This book is written for you. We hope to encourage and inspire you with the how and why of creating a more abundant, joyful world for future generations. Now we want to tell a story that names names. We were in a meeting with Walmart talking about how they could keep improving their environmental footprint in the world. Walmart is intent on being 100% renewably powered and has stated so very publicly. They are now the largest corporate users of solar collectors in the United States. Walmart is also working with local food growers to cut down on shipping vegetables long distances, thus making air and atmosphere cleaner. Of course, they have a great deal of work to do, but they are starting and well underway. We were talking about products, how to use only positively defined ingredients in packaging in goods sold in the stores. The question on the table was, is it really possible? Just then, we noticed a United States Postal Service priority mailbox on the desk behind the executive. "Let's turn it over," we said. The executive did just that. There was the little certification stamp. Cradle-to-cradle certified, CM. That meant that the mailer had gone through our certification process to identify the chemicals and processes used to make the product, and that the product was fully defined, meaning we had identified and assessed every ingredient, and was on its way to its beneficial optimization of materials, logistics, energy, water, and social fairness. There we were, observing Walmart, observing USPS's commitment to being healthful. In China, Good Baby, the world's largest maker of children's products, already has published a roadmap showing how it will adopt cradle-to-cradle standards company-wide. We name these names to show you that the most mainstream companies in the world are thinking in this positive way. We think you can too. This philosophy and this book are the upcycle of our previous work. A decade ago, we, Bill, an architect, and Michael, a chemist, published Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things. We had come across an idea in our design and chemistry work that we considered extraordinarily exciting. Human beings don't have a pollution problem. They have a design problem. If humans were to devise products, tools, furniture, homes, factories, and cities more intelligently from the start, they wouldn't even need to think in terms of waste or contamination or scarcity. Good design would allow for abundance, endless reuse, and pleasure. This concept, we believe, could move the dialogue far beyond a simple interest in recycling, because we noticed that the entire recycling effort grew from a negative belief. The theory being put forward by most sustainability advocates, and increasingly by industry, goes something like this. Human beings create enormous amounts of waste, and should strive to become less bad. Use less energy, poison less, cut down fewer trees. According to these current best practices, all people can hope to achieve is eco-efficiency, minimization, and avoidance, to recycle a limited percentage of objects humans use daily, bottles, paper, and fashion them into, unfortunately, a lesser product, one that can be used once more or twice more, or maybe even 5 times more. But then, where does this product go? Into a landfill? An incinerator? That might not be so bad if the product were well designed from the first. It could become a nutrient in the biosphere, or stay in the technosphere, as a reusable metal or plastic, instead of contaminating the biosphere, the entire ecosystem. This project, as big as it sounds, is obviously not impossible. Nature itself designs this way. But as modern engineers and designers commonly create a product now, the item is designed only for its first use, not its potential next uses after it breaks, or grows threadbare, or goes out of fashion, or crumbles. The item works its way from one downward cycle to another, becoming less valuable. Think a food-grade plastic bottle smashed down, remelted with other plastics, and made into a speed bump. Or more toxic, such as wood turned into a composite board made of formaldehyde-based glues. It seems that what humans make is detritus, frequently toxic. We believe there is a different perspective. The problem is not with humans per se, but with what they have in the last 5,000 years, and especially in the last 150 years, fashioned. When the Industrial Revolution manifested itself, people wanted simply to keep supply as high as demand, and as they did so, thinking grew frantic. Designers and manufacturers grasped for the next best short-term idea that came along, not necessarily informed by long-term considerations. Humans have obviously gained a great deal from that revolution, but society can't stay on that path. Everyone now knows how human beings are contaminating the biosphere. But another troubling possibility has emerged. Humans will run short on easily accessible, clean biological and technical materials from which to build and create a beneficial civilization. These ideas and concerns united us, Bill and Michael, as far back as 1991 when we met in New York. We were united in a common value. How can one design or manufacture in a way that loves all of the children of all species for all time? We wanted our products to be a positive contribution not only to this generation of living creatures, but to future generations, to the whole world. We were weary of the finger-pointing we witnessed in environmental activism, which we felt drained human dignity and frankly slowed down what could be magnificent progress in designing a healthier world. So our coming together was the beginning of a profoundly inspiring friendship. Not long after our first meeting, we were asked to create design principles for the 2000 World's Fair in Hanover, Germany, the theme of which was humanity, nature, and technology. So many people saw doom and gloom scenarios. We wanted the participants to focus not just on the aesthetics, efficiency, and utility of their designs, but on the holistic quality and beauty of their design intentions, their relationship to the future and to far-flung places. The Hanover Principles were publicly presented in 1992, and they guide our work and thinking today. 1. Insist on the right of humanity and nature to coexist in a healthy, supportive, diverse, and sustainable condition. 2. Recognize interdependence. 3. Respect relationships between spirit and matter. 4. Accept responsibility for the consequences of design decisions upon human well-being, the viability of natural systems, and their right to coexist. 5. Create safe objects of long-term value. 6. Eliminate the concept of waste. 7. Rely on natural energy flows. 8. Understand the limitations of design. 9. Seek constant improvement by the sharing of knowledge. 10 years after we articulated those principles, we wrote Cradle to Cradle, in which we further described how they could be put into practice. The book ranged across many design topics, but focused primarily on products. Which brings us to today, to this moment, with this book you are now listening to. The Upcycle asks you to reconceive broader aspects of the world, employing cradle-to-cradle design as a framework. It's time for us to begin re-strategizing the design of our society as a whole. If our work over the past decade has taught us anything, it's that not just designers, not just architects or scientists have important ideas to contribute. To fashion a cradle-to-cradle world, we need everyone. The mothers, the fathers, the children, the teachers, the business executives, the politicians, the homemakers, the factory workers, the store owners, the customers, and so on. Everyone. In this book, we want you to consider design on all scales, from something as small as elemental carbon to something as big as the future, from something as basic as soil to something as extravagant as caviar, from not only how we design our world, but how we power it. This is upcycling, taking cradle to cradle and applying it not just to how people design a carpet, but how they design a home, a workplace, an industry, a city. Using the cradle-to-cradle framework, we can upcycle to talk about designing not just for health, but for abundance, proliferation, delight. We can upcycle to talk about not how human industry can be just less bad, but how it can be more good, an extraordinary positive in our world. Start where you are. Glance at the sun, see the moon and the stars, gaze at the beauty of Earth's greenings. Now, think. Hildegard of Bingen. When we came up with the goal statement for this book, The Upcycle, we did just as Hildegard, the 12th century philosopher, theologian, and naturalist, advised. The two of us were tucked away with friends in a lodge in the northwest of Iceland, and as we worked on the wording of the statement, we looked around at the landscape and thought about what we saw. A wall of volcanic rock that the sun, burning low behind us, polished to burnt umber. A river, delightfully dense with Atlantic salmon, Arctic char, and trout, extending on either side. To our east, a green valley winding for miles toward the island's central glaciers. To our west, odd, imposing 50-foot-tall conical hummocks, rising toward the sky with the silvery Arctic Ocean beyond. This span of unique, diverse details awed us and reaffirmed the huge scale and intricate specificity of our creative challenge. to contribute our part to the bounty already present in the world, and to humbly remember the mutability of even huge landscapes. Iceland had been forested in ancient times, and now the only trees in our view were those behind fences, protected by the farmers from the free-ranging sheep. The sentence we came up with.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?